Welcome, everybody, to our January meeting of the Healing Cooperative on Zoom. Very excited to have GaryNiki, the shamanic medicine man, as our speaker of the month. And Gary is going to be presenting his new book, D.I.Y. ZEN. Gary, you have the floor.
Well, good evening, Susan and team. It's great to be here with you. I'm GaryNiki in Washington, D.C. metro area, the shamanic samurai medicine man and the DIY Zen guy. And so I'm just a little bit of background. I'm retired from National Disaster Emergency Management and public safety. And so hard to believe it's been 20 years ago that I moved here. I landed at Reagan with 2 suitcases and 2 laptops and started my job. I was the lead for safety, security, weapons of mass destruction, terrorism for the United States and the territories for National Red Cross, and worked with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, Homeland Security, and everything. So who'd have thunk that I'd end up here after 9/11? So working at Ground Zero. So a year to the month later, I landed here. They shipped my truck and all my stuff, and here I am. And I'm so grateful to Susan and the Healing Cooperative of Fairfax, because that's where I started in 2009. I was still working for Red Cross, and I would head out coming back from DC back to Virginia to get over to Susan's events and things like that through traffic, I-66 and 495 on the freeway. We could talk about stress, and things like that. But bottom line is, Susan had asked me to speak, and I said, as soon as I get my book done, Susan, I'll be happy to do it. And so that was in 2009, because I said, I'm working on this book. I've been working on it since I returned back from 9/11 in New York, in Manhattan, Ground Zero. I was a trainer. And so I used some of these techniques and shared it with everybody, public safety folks, my teams, other people that were stressed out and everything, law enforcement, fire, hazmat folks, everybody. And so I didn't know that they were calling me the happy trainer, because I would do these orientations, and it was a 24-hour thing. We'd have people coming in literally from all over the world to help us and stuff. And so I would do the graveyard shift, and then I'd be perky early in the morning doing these presentations. And so I had no idea that all these folks were calling me the happy trainer. And they're like, I'm supposed to ask you about the thing that you do. And they're kind of like being stealthy. And I'm like, what's that? And they said, well, somebody said that you help them with like putting your fingers on your forehead. And it's like, oh yeah, put your fingers on your forehead. I said, I've been writing about that since 96, and so I'm working on a book. Well, I had a pamphlet, a 1-page pamphlet and stuff. And they're like, you got to write a book about this. Holy moly, that works, so put your fingers on your forehead, the energetic action process. And we'll do a little bit of each one, because I want you to be able to have something tangible that you could take home and walk away with, use with yourself, your clients, because now I've used it on tens of thousands of folks, and people all over the world know it and they do it. And it's simple, and you own it. Here's the tools right here, and you're able to do that. And so the other part that I'll talk about is muscle testing, and then about how our words are so powerful. What we think, say, feel, and do, those are so powerful for us. So what we're thinking affects us by what we say. If you've studied the Bible, read a Bible, seen a Bible on TV, then you'll know they talked about in there what's in a man's heart. Of course, it's not gender neutral or whatever, but the bottom line is what's in a man's heart is, you could tell by what he speaks. And so I will say what's in our heart comes out through our mouth. And what we say will either strengthen or weaken us. And I've done this with thousands of people at all kinds of events, churches, from here to Hawaii. And I'm still blown away with muscle testing, because I first saw it as a 9-year-old boy in a martial arts class. And since they took the biggest black guy in the class, his 6'5" Marine, and he is hanging from the guy's arm, and then he just does a little thing like this, and all of a sudden the guy's weak. And it's like, what? And the guy's like, do my other arm, and the other arm's weak. Huh? And then he just goes like that, and then the guy's strong and he could hang and dangle his feet and stuff, and it's like, whoa. And then he would call all of us up. It's like, what? It's like, me, and then he did it to me. And the fact that my arm was strong and then weak, blow my mind. And so now I'll be 60. So 50 years ago, because I'm still 59, 50 years ago, it blows my mind. And I just spoke at Unity by the Bay in Annapolis for a group, and signed books and stuff. But the muscle testing was so mind-blowing for everybody, because it shows strong and weak what we're thinking that affects us. And that's what this book is, a lot of it's about. There's a 33-day workbook inside of it. And somebody had talked about EFT. Well, Dr. Patricia Carrington has graduated and passed on. She was 91, I believe. And she was the oldest person that I ever muscle tested or used these techniques on. And she wrote the forwards to my book and the workbook in here. And so I'm so grateful to her. But the thing that we want to think about is what is happening for us. And the simplest tool is muscle testing. There's all kinds of things that you could do. You could use pendulums. This is from Raymond Grace. This is actually a bullet pendulum. I have, all kinds of pendulums and things. I have bobbers and stuff that I use. But you know what? One of the simplest things that we could start with is muscle testing. And I like using this one here when I'm showing a group, like, say, for example, when I spoke at Pathways and there's 100-something people in the room, they can't see you. And until I have somebody come up and I can muscle test them, I have to talk to them about it. So I call this lobby claw, like my buddy, the lobster. And so anyway, by using the lobby claw for strong or weak, that is a way that we can muscle test very simply. And in my book, I have all of the things about muscle testing. Muscle testing is something very simple. I also do what I call tripod finger that I use. I think of it as shooting pool. My dad was a pool shark back in the early days. He was born in 1915 and died in 83. But you know how you hold up your finger and you shoot pool? Well, by having it on a stand or on your leg or the hood of a vehicle, we did it during Katrina, on the hood of a vehicle or on your leg or something, strong, weak, like that. Also, I muscle test like this on a screen. So if I'm going down a screen looking for stuff, muscle test, weak, and then strong. Oh, that's it. Dr. Brad Nelson, he does it reverse, like this. I do it this way. So there's so many different ways. And Dr. Brad, I wrote about him in my book too. He's the one who developed emotion code and body code. And he talked about how he had to work at muscle testing for some weeks before, when he was in chiropractic school, to be able to be good at it. But what he said is anyone can do it, just practice. So everybody go like this, if you would, and do strong, weak. And so say, let's just say yes. So everybody say yes and then squeeze and see if it's tight. Is it strong?
Yep.
Okay. Now say no.
No.
Isn't that amazing? So for me and my brother Leonard, we'll say I'm male. So everybody test. So I'm male. mine's strong, so all the females ought to be weak. Okay? Is that weak for all the females? Is it strong for you, Leonard, bruh? Yep, there it is. Okay, so now Leonard and I will say, well, we'll all say, I'm female.
I'm female.
And see how that weakens? Yeah, so there it is. So, and let me see the females there. Is strong for you? Yeah, look at that. So strong, weak, yes, no. And so here's the thing. If you're like, when you talk about loss, the loss of my mom, loss of E. Haleakala, Dr. Hugh Lynn, Brigadier General Charles, and all these people and friends that I've lost. Leonard and I lost a very dear friend at the end of September, Glory Lane, who we'd known for years. And so a lot of people, she was 80, so she passed on, my friend Christian. So, we could be thinking about just the loss of our family member or a loved one. So what happens to us? It makes us weak. And here's the thing, my teacher, Leroy, who is the one that introduced me, Leroy Malouf of the energetic well-being process, he's the one that introduced me to Susan and the Healing Cooperative back in 2009 when I was still full-time at Red Cross. So I was going to all these trainings and doing things. Well, here's the thing about this is your thoughts and your feelings will either strengthen or weaken. Is that clear for everybody? Because that is something that is so strong and powerful. You could do this and you've got something that'll work right away. So what I'd like you to think about is everybody think about something that's upsetting or negative to you, or something that you'd like to clear out, because whether it's a loss, whether it's COVID, whether it's politics, whether it's traffic, whether it's snow, and you like desert, any of that stuff. So think about something and then muscle test and see if it's weak. Yeah, look at my finger. Yeah. Uh-huh. So something that's weak. Okay, you got it? All right, everybody got that? So what I want you to do is put your fingers on your forehead. See this right here? Right above the eyes, put your fingers on your forehead. Yeah, you just relax. And I want you to play it through 3 times and start to finish, start to finish, start to finish. And when you've done it 3 times, it only takes a few minutes. Just, and feel it as real as possible, as real as you possibly can. Just feel it through, and keep feeling it through the first time, the second time, and the third time. And even if it's harder for you to continue focusing on it, just go ahead and play it all the way through 3 times from start to finish, like a video. And then when you finish, please put your hands down so we could see that you're finished. Okay, so now that you've played it through 3 times, did you all play it through 3 times? Okay, so what I want you to do is think about that situation and do the lobby claw squeeze and see if it's, wow, look how strong that is. So go ahead and test what you were thinking about before. Does it feel strong for you now?
Yep.
Isn't that interesting? This is something that is so simple. The first time I used it in 1996, after I learned on somebody, was at a car crash, multiple vehicles, and there was this lady that was still sitting in this vehicle. Everybody else had gotten out and stuff, and I'm the first one on the scene, and so I got to get traffic going and stuff like that. So I walk up to her and I said, are you hurt or bleeding or anything. And, and she's like, no, it's like, what happened? And she's like, ever seen somebody like that? Whether it's a disaster or a car crash or something. And it's like, okay, if you're able to come out of the vehicle and sit down here on the curb where it's safe, I got to take care of traffic. It's okay to cry. Put your fingers on your forehead or put your palms on your forehead. Just sit here, and that's okay. It's okay to cry. No worries. And I said, I'll get back to you. So anyway, I'm out there getting traffic going, come on, getting people going and kind of watching her. And she's about 5 minutes goes by, and then she stops and she wipes her eyes, and she's sitting there with her hands on her knees, looking around and everything. Deputies start showing up, and it's like, hey, come do traffic. So somebody comes over, takes over traffic, and I walk up to her and I say, okay, what happened? And she goes, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. She goes, what in the world happened? And so it's like, that's okay. And so when the accident investigator got there, I said, are you okay to talk to the accident investigator? And she's like, yeah, yeah. And so she talks to the accident investigator, and I'm watching her and him, and she goes, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. And she's like, looks at me and goes like this. And I just go. And so she finishes with him and comes back to me, and she goes, can I ask you something? It's like, sure. By then, fire and ambos have showed up and tow trucks have showed up and stuff. And she's like, what is this? And I'm 3/4 Japanese, 1/4 Mexican, but I look Oriental, And so anyway, I just said, oh, it's an Oriental thing. Because I didn't have time to explain to her what's going on. So I just said, oh, it's an Oriental thing. And she's like, oh, okay. And she starts to turn and walk away. And then she goes, wait a minute, can I ask you something else? And I was like, yeah, sure. She goes, will this work on other things? And I looked at her, I said, it has for me. And she's like, ah. And so she sat on a bus bench waiting for the tow truck and waiting for her people to come get her. And so while she's waiting there, I don't know how long it took, but she's there. I'd see her put her fingers on her forehead. She did this about 5 or 6 times in that time frame. And then they hook up her vehicle and her ride comes, and she's like, thank you, bye. It's like, wait a minute, aren't you the one that your car was almost totaled? It's like, wow. Made me think, I'm going to have to remember this. So then I started sharing it with people and using it on everywhere. Disasters, 9/11, Katrina, Y2K. Anybody remember Y2K? Yep. In the disaster world, once, I'm retired now, but back then it was, were you pre Y2K? So I was pre Y2K and pre Homeland Security, pre 9/11, pre Katrina, all that stuff. It's amazing how we have people in different emergency management things that are post Sandy. And I was gone before Sandy, Hurricane Sandy, and some of this stuff. It's like, wow, pretty interesting, how that goes. But those of us that were using it back then in the old days. Like I used it during Y2K because people were scared. Oh my God, I'm so worried about this. We spoke to big audiences, thousands of people in mega churches and stuff where they were open to the public and stuff. And they're all worried. Oh my God, is everything going to shut down? What's going to happen? I spent, New Year's Eve into the year 99 into 2000 in a basement bunker emergency operations center, and of course everything was smooth. But by being able to put your fingers on your forehead and feel whatever is bothering you, it works and it clears it out, and it's something that is so simple that nobody has to do anything. Now I will say this, because Dr. Patricia Carrington wrote the forwards for the book, and she was a EFT guru and leader who knew Gary Craig and worked with him personally and helped write things and do things. And so I met her on another energy modality thing, and we just kind of hit it off and became friends. And she said that her clients having to tap, do all the stuff, they would feel weird by having to do that in public, but they're messed up. They're like, oh, and they're embarrassed. They didn't want to do it. So she said, Gary, because I sent her my manuscript, and she says, could I have your permission to use this on my clients? And I'm like, are you kidding? You're a psychologist. And it's like, absolutely, yes. And so she started having her clients put their fingers on their forehead. And so she said, when she would tell them, hey, if somebody comes up and bothers you, hey, what's going on? What's the matter? She says, just look up at them, say, hey, leave me alone. I got a headache. And I went, oh, ting, ting, ting. Oh, that's a great line. Leave me alone. I got a headache. Doesn't matter that I'm crying because my mom passed, my dad passed, my friends, whatever, it doesn't matter, car crash, whatever. It's like you're putting your fingers on your forehead and you're clearing out whatever negative stuff is, or whatever you're using the big W worrying about. You put your fingers on your forehead. But if somebody comes up, hey, what's going on? My boss kicked my ass and I'm upset and everything. No, it's like, hey, get out of here. I got a headache. Leave me alone. Oh, everybody goes, oh, okay. You want an aspirin? No, just go away. Leave me alone. And I thought, how brilliant is that? And it's something simple. You don't have to do anything. It's not embarrassing. You have all the equipment right there, So that's really powerful. The other part, the muscle testing is huge. You could do a lean test where you lean back and forth, center, where you're going forward for yes, backwards for no, neutral, like that. And you could do all of those things. But the other one that I want to share with you, it's called the energetic action process. And I call it hand drumming, just like if you were using a drum, on the blade of the hand, the karate chop side of the hand, like that, or hand clapping, just like that. And I do it like this. Sometimes I even tap, I don't like to call it tapping because EFT, energetic, emotional freedom technique, uses a thing called tapping, but this is not tapping. This is hand drumming or clapping on your hand like this on the karate chop side right there, and you could do it loud, some people are like, oh my God, but you could do it just real simply. When I was doing those Y2K talks, there was a group of over 6,000 people, there, and I'm with the mayors and police chiefs and emergency management gurus and stuff, and I'm the Red Cross representative, FEMA people, and it's like, oh my God, am I worthy enough to talk to these people and all that? So they have a modesty curtain on the table so they can't see under the table, so I just have my hand on my lap and I'd be doing a little statement just like this, and then I get up in front of the group and it's like, hi, GaryNiki, American Red Cross, how is everybody? And I'd own the room because I cleared that out. So here's the thing. I didn't ask you before, but on the thing that you thought about where you put your fingers on your forehead and you muscle test yourself real quick. Think about that again and see, are you still strong? Strong? Okay, so you're strong. All right, what was one emotion um, that came up for you? Actually, since we don't have a whole lot of time, because I usually take longer, but what I'll do is I'll do what I use for my anger management folks. And I've been doing anger management folks since 2005. Now, I haven't been able to do classes in person since March of 2020. So it's hard to believe I've been doing this like 16 years, you know, and stuff. And so I tell them there's two things I never give advice of. One is I'm 59, don't have kids, not going to have kids, so I never give kid advice. And all the parents laughed like, and my nephews that are in their 30s are probably grateful that have the grandkid and the great grandkid, you know, for my mom. You know, I'm sure they're like thinking, oh, I'm grateful Uncle G doesn't give any parenting advice, you know, because all these people that don't have kids want to tell you how to do it. It's like, wrong answer. The other thing is I tell them, as of May, this May, I will be divorced 36 years. So I say, you know what? I never give relationship advice. And everybody laughs. I said, but being an angry SOB with authority and all that, I said, I know all about that. Maybe you met me or somebody like me. And, you know, they're like, ah, you know, because they've been arrested, on probation, adjudicated, and they're on probation. And now they have to come to the anger management class because it's court ordered. So then they come to the class and they see me. Usually I wear a Yoda tie or one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish, or uh, uh, a Jerry Garcia tie or something like that, you know, and they see me with long hair and everything, and they come into the class and they're like, are you Mr. Gary? It's like, yeah. And they're like, oh, and they're shocked. They're like, oh. I said, what's the matter? They go, well, you don't look like what you don't look like what you sound like. It's like with the long hair and the stuff. I said, oh, is that bad? And they go, no, it's good, because the other classes that I've been to have been really stoic and all that. But here's the thing. What works for us works for us. Fingers on the forehead is a simple thing. Muscle testing is a simple thing. This other part I would have them do. So bring your fingers up here and say, I am miserable, and squeeze. If you have not cleared it, is it strong? Squeeze it, resist. See, it's strong. Okay. Now say, I'm happy. Bring them up. Do I'm happy. And see, if you haven't cleared it out, what happens is it's weak. Why? Because what happens is it doesn't mean, oh my God, my life is terrible. Everything sucks and I want to die. It's like, that's a bunch of crap. That's not what this is about. It's like, you know what? When I was a little kid, I did not get ice cream. So I'm miserable. I'll never be happy ever again. Right? Has anybody ever done that, or am I the only weirdo here? Okay. Thank you, Liana. Good to know I'm not the only weirdo here. But, you know, I guarantee you that it's happened to everybody, every single person on the planet. If you're human and you're older than a year or two old, I'm going to tell you right now, because I've muscle tested tens of thousands of people, worked with thousands of clients on this, who've gone through some terrible things, from sexual abuse, incest, rape, all kinds of things, horrible things, family members dying, killing each other, doing horrible stuff that I've gone through. You know what happens is we get upset and then we're miserable. We're miserable for it. And it could be something that goes way back to childhood, or a divorce, or some. I went through divorce and bankruptcy at the same time, and it was horrible. Lost everything, you know? So all these things they could be affecting us. So that's why I'm miserable. A lot of times we could be strong too, and I'm happy is weak. So here's what we're going to do. So everybody look on the screen. So left hand here, and you could just do it like this, real simple, and repeat after me. I deeply love and accept myself,
Deeply love and accept myself,
even if I'm miserable.
even if I'm miserable.
I deeply love and accept myself,
Deeply love and accept myself,
even if I'm miserable.
even if I'm miserable.
I deeply love and accept myself,
Deeply love and accept myself,
even if I'm miserable.
even if I'm miserable.
I deeply love and accept myself,
Deeply love and accept myself,
even if I refuse to do the things necessary
even if I refuse to do the things necessary
to be happy.
to be happy.
I deeply love and accept myself,
Deeply love and accept myself,
even if I refuse to do the things necessary
even if I refuse to do the things necessary
to be happy.
to be happy.
I deeply love and accept myself,
Deeply love and accept myself,
even if I refuse to do the things necessary
even if I refuse to do the things necessary
to be happy.
to be happy.
I deeply love and accept myself,
Deeply love and accept myself,
even if I've hidden or unknown issues
even if I have hidden or unknown issues
with being miserable.
with being miserable.
I deeply love and accept myself,
Deeply love and accept myself,
even if I've hidden or unknown issues
if I have hidden or unknown issues
with being miserable.
with being miserable.
I deeply love and accept myself,
Deeply love and accept myself,
even if I've hidden or unknown issues
even if I have hidden or unknown issues
with being miserable.
with being miserable.
Okay, so that's the process. This is the energetic action process. So bring up the lobby claw fingers. So first of all, just say yes and feel, is it strong? Okay, and say no, is it weak? Yes. Okay, so now say I am miserable and squeeze hard.
Miserable.
Wow. Say I am happy
I am happy.
and squeeze. Wow, look at that. Woo. Isn't that amazing? You know, the thing is, it's not rocket science. This is so simple. These are simple tools. And what I call it is DIY Zen and the art of gentle emotional transformation. And that's what it's about. It's got a 33-day workbook in it, and you go through the process. Plus, it has a couple of things. One is called the awful, distressing stuff list that is hundreds of things of the stuff that have come from literally thousands of clients that have been affected by things. And so it's in there. And then there's the positivity and empowerment list. So you want to be able to go through and say, I'm miserable and be weak for that. I am happy and be strong for that. And so if you're not, just clear it out. You know, it's that simple. I deeply love and accept myself, even if I'm whatever that is. And so you could do it so simply. Now I put in my contact information, so it's got my stuff and website and everything. I wanted to tell you something about real quick about the heart dollar. This is called the heart dollar, gratitude and abundance blessing. And when Kelly was talking, I was holding up the heart dollar and pointing to it because she is the co-administrator on the heart dollar gratitude and abundance blessing circle. And I met her at Greg Braden event and gave her a heart dollar in 2018. Well, when I was traveling in Florida in the shamanic Land Rover, Rovi and I stopped at one of my volunteers' houses, and they gave me a $2 bill, and I folded it on the video. And in 2019, I sent the video to Kelly and some friends. Well, Kelly is a school teacher, and her and the kids made over 500 of them before COVID. So they're all over the world. I've made over 13,000, almost 13,300 of them. And I learned it in 2002. So Kelly, how's that? It's hard to believe. It's like, what, 2 decades? How did I get that old? Wait a minute. Okay, I still see gray. Okay, but the bottom line is in there, there's the heart dollar gratitude and abundance blessing circle. And then also I put a thing in there about resources on YouTube. I've started to put some videos up and things and shamanic clearing. I'm going to put on some other ones that I've I've done and things like that. And those are free resources that are available to you. But the bottom line is you are worth taking care of yourself. So if I see you, you're worth it. So if you're stressed, if you're upset, put your fingers on your forehead, muscle test, however it works for you, and then do the energetic action process. The other part is you were experienced now with the vocal vibrational toning. You could tone. I wanted to sound like Pavarotti. Well, I never have, but he doesn't tone like I do. So the thing is, use what skills and abilities you have, because by bringing through the tones, whether it's ooh, ah, eh, oh, oh, ooh, ah, eh, oh, 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 bring those through, because what happens is it helps you to clear through whatever's going on for you. And it literally is that simple, and it really does make a big difference. So, Susan, I'm sorry I don't know what the time is or anything.
You're
If
great. You're in perfect time. It's absolutely fantastic.
or anything like that, I'm happy to tell them. This is my Hello Kitty. These are my tiger buddies and owl hoot. Um, I'll tell you something about this owl real quick. June 21st of 1972, an F2 tornado hit our house in Paradise Valley. It took 3/4 of our house with us inside of it. And so, you know what? Maybe that's why I became a disaster manager. But it wasn't until I was working in disaster management and an instructor trainer for the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and I was at a Skywarn weather spotter training. And so I'm a ham radio operator. And the person said, the teacher, the meteorologist said, there was one F2 tornado that hit Arizona. And I raised my hand. I said, June 21st of 1972, about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the evening. He goes, yes. He goes, how do you know? And I said, I was 10 years old, and it took our house, 3/4 of our house with us inside of it. And I said, I'll always remember that. Well, my owl, the original Big Tig, and this owl, not, it didn't look like this, but it was a little felt owl that a friend of mine's mom made for me, was lost. I was 10 years old. I'm going to be 60 April 29th. So for 50 years, almost 59 3/4 years, I've always thought about the owl, and it's bothered me. Well, I was in DC at one of the holiday event things, and a friend of mine said, hey, a friend of mine's from Peru, and he makes different gifts and things. Why don't you go check it out? And I saw this owl. Isn't he cute? And I connected with him. It was like, oh my God, hoot. And so, I've used the fingers on my forehead over the years to clear stuff out and everything, but I still felt that loss. But there's Hoot. So here he is.
That's
I just wanted
wonderful.
to introduce him to you. And this was the Hello Kitty, the Japanese Hello Kitty that I uh, got for my mom and sent it to her at the assisted living for memory. And she loved the kitty. And so my brother-in-law, I asked him for my book back, because I know the video's backwards, but it's Gary's number one mom. Because she would always say, you're my number one son. I said, Mom, I'm your only son. She goes, I know. And I would say, well, you're my number one mom. So I wrote in it and signed it for her and everything. And so when she graduated Earth School, I asked my brother-in-law to send it back. So here they are with me.
Gary, I want to thank you for your presentation tonight and for the interesting information that you've given to us about energy healing and the powers of these different techniques. But, there's something else about you that needs to be said. Sure, you're a powerful energy healer, you have amazing techniques, but above all, you are a kind and good soul. And for all the years that I've known you, you have shown nothing but kindness and goodness and generosity to everybody that has come across your path. And I am just so honored to be your friend and I'm so grateful for knowing you. And really, like, you are just such an amazingly kind and good human being. And if everybody was just a little bit more like you, we would be living in a world that was a very happy place. So thank you for being just an exemplary human being, and thank you for being our speaker tonight.
Well, thank you so much, Susan. And the fact that I told you I would come after I got my book done, who'd have thunk it that it took me 22 years to get the book published. And so it was published on November 12th, no, November 22nd of 2020.
That's
And
right.
so, what's interesting is a dear friend of mine that I met through Susan, Reverend Deborah Olazeki, graduated Earth School on 11/22 of last year of
That's right.
2021, and I just talked to her Sunday uh, before
Yeah,
on
she
the
died. Yeah.
21st, and she said, "Hey." She was having trouble speaking a little bit. She had cancer, and she said, tomorrow your book is going to be 1 years old, because I would say 1 years old. So when I said I've been 50 my whole life, so when I turned 50, 51, I said I'm 1 years old, and they go, what? I said, with 50 years of experience, and so now I'm going to be 60, so I'll be 10 years old with 50 years of experience. But uh so the anniversary of my book, so I was all excited about it and everything, and I called her and left a text message, and I didn't hear from her. And then on the 23rd, her daughter contacted me and said, please call me. And I did. And she said, my mom died. And so anyway, I met dear Reverend Deborah Olazeki. She was a client, a friend, and I learned a lot from her. She was an amazing angel messenger and had a radio show called Everyday Angels, and I
Yeah.
would be on her show too and stuff.
Yeah.
But she loved Susan. And because of Susan, I met Reverend Deborah
I
Olazeki.
remember her fondly.
Have so
Absolutely.
many synchronicities. And
Yeah.
Susan, I'm one who is a person who always gets a healing from you and your group, especially those O cards and the energies that you bring through and the speakers bring through. And I love learning new things, and I love sharing. So I'm one of those triad people too. Just like
Absolutely. We all are. Yeah.
really honest said, I'm one that gets it all too. So thank you all so
Thank
much.
you. I'm going to close the recording now. And you can look for this recording online because I post the recordings of all the speakers on our YouTube page.
Oh, and before you close it, I just want to say that the clearing energy from from all of this stands for everybody. So when I do toning, when I do any type of clearing or anything, it's included in the video. So the fingers on the forehead, the muscle testing, the energetic action process, all that energy is infused in there. So if you watch it 100 years from now, it's still going to do it.
Fantastic. All right. We're going to stop now.